Thank you, Lisa, for that wonderful children's story. That certainly encouraged me to want to share with those around me and to give what I have, whether it be little or whether it be much. That Thank you, and I hope that the children enjoyed that as well. Today, I'm going to be doing the Health Nugget, as the person who was going to do the Health Nugget is actually feeling a little ill right now. So I'm going to fill in last minute. But today I want to talk about how we can. What we're going to talk about disease. What is it? How can we avoid disease? What can we do during disease? And so as we learn, let's begin in Psalms 119. Psalms chapter 119, verse 70. The Bible says, "Their heart is as fat as grease, but I delight in thy law." So notice there's a contrast. Some people's hearts and arteries are clogged with cholesterol and grease. But God's people, they delight in the law, so they don't have fat hearts. When you're living in an age where heart disease is one of the leading killers in the Western world, this is very serious. But God's actually showing that heart attacks, strokes, these things, high cholesterol, can be avoided. Here's an interesting note. Dietary cholesterol is only found in animal products. Our bodies naturally produce cholesterol, but not to the degree that it will clog our arteries. The only thing that will clog our arteries is animal products. So if you remove the animal products, you will not have, and you eat more plant-based food, you're not going to have the hearts that are as fat as grease. So verse 71, it's very interesting. It says, "It is good for me that I have been afflicted." Why? "That I might learn thy statutes." Now, what are the statutes? Verse 72, "The law of thy mouth is better unto me than thousands of gold and silver." So what does it profit if you have riches but you don't have your health? What good is that? Many people sacrifice their health so that they can gain riches. Then the last portions of their life, they sacrifice their riches so that they can regain their lost health. Does that make very much sense? When you follow God's laws, as did Solomon in his early days, he asked for discernment that he may judge his people. And because he asked for discernment, God gave him discernment and riches and influence, and his reign was the highest, was the most prosperous in all the lands. When you look at that, Solomon, his conclusion of the whole matter in Ecclesiastes 12:13, "Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Let us fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man." That's what he concluded at the end of all of this. So I really find verse 71 interesting of Psalms 119, because it says it's good for me that I'm afflicted. Usually when we think of our afflictions, we're like, woe is me. It's like, oh no, I am sick, I'm sore, my heart hurts, my brain is fatigued, and it's like, oh no, I can't do this because I have this problem, and we focus on the result. But the result is not going to fix it. We need to look at the cause. But the afflictions are not a bad thing. The afflictions are not God's arbitrary judgment or punishment through disobedience out of wrath. The afflictions are good. How many of us would have never known Jesus if it wasn't that afflictions led us to the foot of the cross?
Amen.
I could raise my hand first and foremost. That's this guy. And we see each other as well. So afflictions are God's instruments. Trials, sickness, disease, they're God's tools to wake us up, to realize that we might learn thy statutes, the law of thy mouth, so that we can learn the health laws, so that we can understand moral laws, so we can understand financial laws, relationship laws, mental laws, spiritual laws. When we understand these natural laws and these moral laws, we will find that the afflictions is simply the result of disobedience. And that's why the psalmist said in Proverbs, the wisest king. Proverbs 26 verse 2. It says, as the bird by wandering, as the swallow by flying, so the curse causeless shall not come. The curse causeless shall not come. There is a reason behind every curse and every blessing. The cause is the laws of God. It's simply cause and effect. Too often we are looking at the effects. The effect is the runny nose. The effect is the but please stop. The effect is the blurry vision, or the effect is that the lack of energy. The effect is not being able to sleep at night. We think that these are the problems. So then, when we have the runny nose, we spray up the chemical that stops our nose from being able to run. But that's not going to fix the problem. That's just dealing with symptoms. The cause is that there is pathogens, there are germs, there are diseases or viruses in our immune system wreaking havoc in our body, and our immune system is fighting and trying to eject the enemy out of our body. And God has given us our nose as a tool to fight the battles of disease, of sickness, to fight off the sickness. And when we stick the chemicals in there, it disarms our immune system. It disarms our body's ability to fight off the intruder. The intruder is the cause. The symptoms are the effect. If we are just dealing with the effects in our life, now I'm talking about health, but it applies anything. If we are just dealing with the effects, we're not going to get the results we're looking for. We're just going to keep getting the same results. What we need to do is found in Job chapter 29, verse 16. Job says, I was a father to the poor, and the cause which I knew not, I searched out. So we need to search out the cause. We need to study these health laws and recognizing that disease is an effort of nature to free the system from conditions that result from a violation of the laws of health. In case of sickness, the cause should be ascertained. Unhealthful conditions should be changed. Wrong habits corrected. Then nature is to be assisted in her efforts to expel impurities and to reestablish right conditions in the system. We need to understand what are the laws that govern our health, the laws of health. And I like the acronym God's plan, because it shows that God has a plan for your life. God has a plan for your health. And G stands for godly trust. O is for open air. D for daily exercise. S for sunshine. That's God's. Now plan. P is for proper rest. L, lots of water. A, always temperate in nutrition. Now entire messages can be given just on each laws of themselves, but God's laws are exceedingly broad. When we violate any one of these laws, we're going to get the results. So if we are sick, we can just trace back, What laws have I been violated? What has weakened my immune system? What has allowed toxins into my body? What foods have I, the law of nutrition, what foods have I put in my body, or the lack thereof, that has made mineral deficiencies? If we're not getting the nutrient, a lack of minerals means that our cells will not have the building blocks it needs to function. So then our kidneys and our liver and our organs are going to start failing. So when we have a kidney disease, there's a mineral or multiple minerals that are associated with that. When we have liver disease, there are minerals that are related to liver disease. It's poor nutrition. So what you want to find is fully mineralized, nutritionally dense food that you can introduce to your body so that you can supply for that lack of nutrition. And so these are all different things that you could just go down the list, like temperance. Many times we will work and work and work till exhaustion, and then we run out. And then when we crash, now we're afflicted. Now, crashing is the result or the consequence of disregarding the law of proper rest, disregarding the law of temperance. Temperance in seeing and eating and working, and then the affliction is not a bad thing. God allows that in mercy so that we can learn His statutes, we can learn His laws. And we're going to continue to have affliction if we do not align ourselves with obedience to the laws of life. That's where we're going to find the greatest joy. A matter of fact, 1 John 5 verse 3 says, "For this is the love of God." Do you love God? Do you really love God? Notice how the love of God is defined. This is the love of God, that we keep His commandments, and His commandments are not grievous. Even if we keep God's commandments and they're grievous to us, they're exactions, they are restrictions in our minds, or that it is lessening ourselves from something that we think is going to bring us joy, that shows that we don't love God. We fear God in an unhealthy fear. We are afraid of consequences that's motivating to action. We have not studied His character. We do not know God, and therefore we cannot love God, because love is of God. He that doesn't know God cannot love. So, but when we see what disobedience to God's laws does, in the sacrifice, the self-sacrificing love of God, that the Son of God had to die Himself in our place, then we cannot but be inspired to reciprocate that love. We love God because He first loved us, not the other way around. And recognizing that if the laws of God could be changed, Christ need not have died for our sins. And it is just as much a sin to violate the laws of health as it is to violate the Ten Commandments. And so the more that we understand the laws and behold these laws, we will be instead of marring God's handy marks, we will have an ambition to make all that is possible of ourselves in order to fill the Creator's glorious plans. Thus, we are going to regard obedience to the laws of health not as a matter of sacrifice or self-denial, but as it really is, an inestimable privilege and blessing. John 14:15, "If you love me, keep my commandments." So this is what we have for the Health Nugget. I hope that this helps us to understand a little bit more about disease, its cause, prevention, and cure, because God does have a plan. And we know that God's healing is not found in chemicals, and they're not even found just in plants, but it is God that promises in Psalms 103 verse 3, who healeth all thy diseases, who forgiveth all thine iniquities. There is a connection between sin and disease that that we would do well to take heed and to really take time to consider.